Hello guys, Brian James here. A little unconventional video here. I never do this, but for those who have been paying attention in the past few days, the NASCAR schedule got released, and it's been met with some positive and, per usual, some negative comments. So it got me thinking, I have some ideas that would probably make NASCAR more enjoyable. So I just want to, full disclosure real quick, what I'm going to say in this video is pure opinion. It is not a fact of what they need to do. It's what I believe they should do that would make everything better. I'm going to address a lot of topics that have been focal points in recent years. These are my opinions. Once again, please do not land-based me for them. I just basically state the opinions that I have here. Alright, so ideas NASCAR should consider entering the 2020 season beyond. I like to do PowerPoints. I like to have visuals. It's something I picked up while I was in school. Anyway, by the way, I'm still in school. I'm still on hiatus. But I just wanted to make this. I thought I'd have a little fun before Season 4 of the Jello Cup. Alright, so what I'm going to address is, Cup drivers in the lower series, schedule changes beyond 2020, tech alliances, charter system inspection, and possibly even some factors that could be added in to help make everything more enjoyable. Alright, so you guys have known for years, drivers from Cup regulars have done double duty, sometimes triple duty in the Xfinity and trucks. They have since limited it to 5+ years experience. You can only run 5 races in trucks, 7 in Xfinity. This does not include Dash for Cash or playoff races. You can only do regular season races where it does not coincide with the Dash for Cash. I don't know about the new truck program. I believe they have something similar to the Dash for Cash now. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Drivers can only declare to run for points in one of the 3 series. Cup regulars cannot collect playoff points toward the owners' championships in lower series. So you guys know that most of the Cup drivers run in the lower series to collect owner points, help their car owner win a championship. So you guys aren't going to like this. Here's my solution here. Remove the race limits. Now, you may say, for those who've known me for years, you know I do not like Kyle Busch. I dislike him with a passion. So you might be saying, well, why would you want to limit it? Here's the thing. I believe it should be like an Indy Light series, like the ladder to the top, in a sense where the Cup driver should have no involvement. However, from a marketing standpoint, I guess you have to understand why these Cup regulars go down into the Xfinity. It brings in money. It also helps these guys race the best. I've heard. So my idea is allow Cup regulars to race the Xfinity and truck races. Let them run all the races except for the Dash for Cash, the regular season finale, and the playoff races. So that's 21 races in Xfinity that they can't run, and that's about 16 or 17 that they can't run in. They can run in the trucks. The Cup regulars continuing on that, they cannot collect the driver points still. My other belief is instead, how they race for the owners championship, don't allow them to collect those owner points. If they're not collecting driver points, why should they collect owner points? That's just my personal opinion on it. Any team running with the Cup regular and trucks or Xfinity should have to forfeit owner points for the race. In other words, like, if it gets down to, knockout qualifying, say Kyle Busch, here's the thing, you'll never see Kyle Busch on another restrictor plate again. I believe, if I recall reading a story, his wife prohibits him from running or Xfinity and truck races on road course, or on super speedways, I mean. So my idea is that, Kyle Busch would run 14 races, or he'd run about 10, not counting the ones that are on different tracks. With that, judging by the fact he'll only run those 10 races, he won't collect donor points in those races. The Xfinity rule is top 33 in the field, or top 33 in owner points locks in. My other idea is take the champion's provisional away. Then, if the race rains out and you have drivers up and coming, maybe with smaller teams that otherwise would not make the field, you are now putting them in a position to make the field, or you're making Kyle Busch and others have to work to get to the front. Like, thing is, this would hurt Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney because they are Cup regulars. They're the only ones behind the wheel. The 12, that 12 car would not make the field on that. If it were to run the full season with just those guys, they'd have trouble, especially, Brad Keselowski would have the past champions provisional. I'd say the guys running for the Cup championship don't get the past champions provisional. They have to race their way in. And if qualifying rains out, well, sucks to be the Cup regular. Then highly unlikely possibility here if you're reading ahead. This is highly unlikely, but I still want to throw this idea out there. Take about a little over 50%. My thought was 3/4 of the winnings that they make from Xfinity races and reallocate it through the field. So all the Xfinity regulars, maybe some truck guys that are just running a one-off deal in Xfinity, reallocate that money to them. Same thing in the trucks, reallocate that money to the other teams. It'll help strengthen their programs, So essentially, the Cup guys are only getting money from their sponsorship and from their contracts. That's it. Other than that, they're just racing for fun. There's a con with this, though. Obviously, teams are going to end up operating in the red. But essentially, it's to deter them from using a Cup driver to earn wins, earn points. It's saying, that's fine, you can do it that way, but you're going to hurt your program in the long run. So, I don't know. That's an idea to throw out there. That's one that could be up for discussion. Another thing you guys saw in recent days, the Cup schedule took a massive overhaul, or massive 180. I shouldn't even say overhaul. Like, no new tracks were added. The West Coast swing is going to start after the Daytona 500. Here's the one I like the most. The West Coast one doesn't impact me. That one's just whatever. The Martinsville night race. I'm actually excited for that. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. IndyCar style Pocono doubleheader weekend. It's going to be interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. Lots of people don't like that track. I think it's good for IndyCar. I don't know if it's quite good for NASCAR. And it depends on how long they're going to make the races. I don't think both races are going to be 400 miles. Maybe that's a, no-brainer right there. If it was, that would kind of be exhausting if you're a Cup driver. But yeah, IndyCar style doubleheader at Pocono in June. The Coke Zero 400 and the Brickyard 400 have swapped race weekends. I gotta tell you, I don't like that one. this one I'm kind of against. The Brickyard, they're trying to make it a prestigious race, just like the Indianapolis 500. They're trying to give them their huge date on the schedule. They're saying, here, we want to make you a national pastime just like that. It just doesn't work that way. The Brickyard is a prestigious event, but you gotta find a way to make it more entertaining. I've heard a lot of fans say they are not entertained with the Brickyard racing. I think having the incentive of racing for the regular season championship, racing to make your final push for the playoffs there, I think that was more entertaining to see, putting a little more incentive on that race. The Coke 0400 didn't need incentive. That race was fine on the 4th of July. It's been a staple for so many years. I'm not going to lie, I don't feel too good about that one. I think that one was a bad call. A lot of people like to spend their 4th of July on the beach. Now they got to rethink their plans. And, just overall, the Coke 0400, it's not a good move. I think it's going to be like, you're going to have a lot of guys trying to work together now. You're going to have a lot of conspiracies of, deliberately causing wrecks. It just becomes a whole thing, essentially. And an ISM finale, I guess that's okay. There are better tracks that could have hosted the finale, though. So I'm not for or against it. I just think they could have done better. But I'm optimistic, so I kind of can't wait to see what the schedule's going to do to the teams. It'll be interesting. So 2020 schedule's pretty good on paper. I listed the flaws in the basic disappointments. Obviously, adding new tracks, that's not NASCAR's control for 2020. They have contracts to play out. Contracts, my solution is the contract should not be long term. What was it, like a 12-year deal with all these Speedway Corp tracks or whatever? It's just too long. I mean, IndyCar doesn't have lengthy deals with any tracks. I don't even think Formula One has lengthy deals with tracks. It's just mile and a half ovals as well, like, why are you signing these kinds of deals? It's just not good. Simple 3-4 year deals work. Test the barrier, see if the fan, assess everything, and then make a judgment call on that. I think that's what should be done. Obviously, short tracks need to be more prominent on the schedule. If I had to guess, mile and a halves make up around 50% of the 30 race schedule. And I would also include in there Michigan and Auto Club and Pocono, maybe Indy. So the races that are bigger than a mile and a half with no restrictor plate, they make up over half the schedule. Or I'm sorry, now it's tapered spacers, but you've heard me in the past before say more. For those who know me well, I've said more road courses. I stress that. I cannot stress that enough. More road courses, please. Dirt tracks wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't know if the Gen 6 cars can handle it. So that's more of a bonus point, if anything. Like the bonus question on a final exam. It's a bonus if you could figure out a way to add that on there. I'm not going to lie. I like the Cup Road courses right now. Obviously, I'm biased for the Glen because I am a New York person. Sonoma's still pretty decent, and then the Roval. The Roval, I think, shattered expectations last year, so keep that on the schedule if possible. Here's the thing. I think NASCAR should run 5, 6 road courses. I think the Cup Series should. Xfinity runs 4. Why do the Xfinity guys get more road courses than the Cup guys? I don't know. Someone would have to explain that to me. But I say add Road America on a 3-year deal. I've heard that floated around with NASCAR fans. Canadian Tire or Montreal, maybe add them on a 3-year deal. And then Mexico City, maybe add on a 3-year deal. And you see it, international races, basically North America racing. You already got a Pinty series in Canada, then you got the Mexico series that Daniel Suarez came from. We got Canadian drivers like DJ Kennington, we've seen Ron Fellows. If we're bringing these guys in, why aren't we racing on their turf? Essentially, if that's the respectful way to put it, why aren't we marketing down there? Why aren't we marketing up there? You got a truck series race up in Canada. That track is provided for some excellent racing. Canadian Tire. If you can't go to Montreal because of Formula One deals or whatever, go to Canadian Tire with the Cup race. But essentially, bring in Mexican and Canadian drivers. Why not market? Why not pay them back? Give them a home field advantage. Essentially. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I'm trying to be decent about it. Anyway, tech alliances. No, this is the next one. So, you got Dodge, Toyota, Ford, Chevy. Dodge is not factory supported anymore, so basically it's whatever you have in the garage is what you're going to use. They're not supplying it. Chevy's got Earnhardt and Hendrick, TRD with Joe. I think it's Joe Gibbs now, but TRD helps with it. Something like that. Ford's got Roush Yates. The smaller teams go through TriStar or Pro Motors. Cup teams work closely with their manufacturers, whether they're teammates or not. We see it every Daytona and Talladega race. We see the Toyotas pair up. Then we see the Fords pair up. It's just annoying. Because no one wants to fight for a win. So my solution, yes, eliminate tech alliances. Just eliminate them. No more engine backing from a specific NASCAR Cup team. No more of it. Ford, Chevy, and Toyota, take essentially anything under the hood, take away from these Cup teams. You got guys that aren't keeping up with the same equipment. Maybe it's, their equipment's older. But I say take everything away, say you are building everything from scratch, and then you show up to the racetrack. And we'll give you your engine, we'll give you your spoiler. Teams can buy or lease them from a manufacturer and receive them at the track. Teams build their own chassis and suspension. Essentially, they build the body, NASCAR builds the rest to level the playing field. It could cut costs. I don't know. I don't look into that stuff, but I know Indy you have to lease from the manufacturer. But I believe it would level the playing field. I got a little more on leveling the playing field in a few seconds. So, the other thing, you love it or you hate it. It's the charter system. 36 spots guaranteed for 9 years, I read on Wikipedia. Non-chartered part-time teams don't make the same amount as the charter teams. They just get a simple small paycheck. This was started by the Race Team Alliance, and no one knows what these teams make unless you followed the BK Racing debacle in court. So I think the solution's simple. You got to get rid of it. Just go back to the owner points. Robbie Gordon Motorsports is a little bit dated. I think I shouldn't have included that in there. BK Racing shut down. If you saw the court case, they were making little to nothing, even with charters. It was sad. The cost of racing is high in NASCAR. There's no lie. When they started this was supposed to level the playing field. And honestly, the playing field couldn't be any less level than it is right now. I mean, we've seen Front Row Motorsports able to pull off upsets. We've seen Starcom running up front. We've seen Tommy Baldwin try to pull top fives. Same with Premium. Occasionally a blind squirrel finds a nut, but it's not as often as you think. They're still miles behind the other teams, technology-wise. Top 35. My solution is just give the top 35 thing a chance again. It should come down to owner points. It shouldn't be the same 36 locked in each race. Inspection is another thing. Many fans think just let them go, let them have a chance, just let them race, because it's crippling them. Just make the car fast. Who cares? Fastest car wins at the end of the day. The penalties are too biased. NASCAR is now disqualifying drivers for failed post-race inspections. The second place driver will win out of it. The question is, how biased will they be on it? So, here's the solution here. I mean, honestly, I don't see much solution. If you're trying to make the playing field level, you got to keep what you're doing, but maybe make a degree of the infraction. Like I said, I do this with very little research, but maybe, say you're saying you're in the green. After that, say your car's good, get out on track. If you're a few degrees off, I've seen like a few degrees off and car chiefs get ejected. I don't think that's fair. Maybe some guy had a bad day with the angles of things. There should be a little leniency there. If it's, say like within a certain degree, like if you're 10 degrees off, 10 pounds off with the balance, whatever it is, let it go. If you're within that range, fine. Red means you're way too far off. You have too much of an aero advantage. I use Kevin Harvick's back window as an example. If you remember Vegas, how that window was crushed in and he was just destroying everybody last year. But maybe say yellow, first time's a warning. Say, hey, this is a problem. I can't let you on track. You need to go back and fix this. Maybe the second time you get your car chief ejected, you say, hey, you're going to get docked practice time. If it's post-qualifying, maybe you're disqualified from the event after the third time. Maybe a point deduction post-race, a possible suspension. Or for a red infraction, meaning you're way off on your measurements, way off on everything. Maybe if it's pre-qualifying, you're disqualified from qualifying. You have to start the race from the back. Post-qualifying, pre-race, maybe DQ. If it's post-qualifying, maybe you get disqualified for the race. You're not allowed to start. You just basically pack it up, go home. It's a little harsh. I'm not going to lie. But, if you're that far off and you know what the rules are, these are also trained mechanics. These guys know better. A few degrees off, I think I could live with. If you're way, way off on your measurements, on your differentials, something's got to give. Maybe if it's post race, maybe Kevin Harvick should have been suspended a race for the back window. I don't know. But same as the 2019 rule, I happen to agree with that. All right. So here's some suggestions. Let's put the fun back in this thing. Let's put incentives into winning. Making these drivers settle less for second place. Maybe even make the playoffs more interesting. So, my idea, Daytona 500, Indianapolis, Coca-Cola 600, if you're going to make those the marquee events, why not double points? I've done it in my Jello Cup series. You guys have seen it. It's pretty... It adds a whole new level to things. Maybe double up the playoff points. If you win a stage, you get 2 playoff points as opposed to 1. They've granted at the Coca-Cola 600 an extra playoff point, so you can walk out with a grand total of 8. Maybe say, hey, you can walk out with 16 instead. It's essentially like a regular season championship at that point. That race will never get moved. That would hurt a lot of people. See that race get moved to the the regular season championship race. Big thing is the other solution is you got to fix the playoff format. I mean, I like the playoff style format where drivers get knocked out after a few races. You win, you move on. But how's about this? 3 rounds. You have 8 spots up for grabs in round one. Like round 1, 8, half the field gets eliminated. Race 27, 28, 29, 30. Those are the races, that's round 1. After that, 8 drivers get knocked out. Then you go race 31, 32, 33, 34. That's the round to make the championship. Win and you're in. And then why not make the championship 4 a 2-race finale? Here's the problem I see with ISM right now. Here's the problem I've seen with Homestead. It's just going to be, ISM more than Homestead. Homestead's not as predictable. ISM is quite predictable. Here's the thing. If you watch ISM races, that's Kevin Harvick's home. He's made that track. He's owned that track for the past forever. This is a championship built for him. This is a championship built for Kyle Busch if those guys can get to the championship 4. Maybe make race 36 a double point race. Say 35 is a regular point race. Maybe even, and this is just an idea I thought of, maybe after race 35 you cut it down to 2 drivers and say it's a mano battle. Kind of like like Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart in 2011. That was a hell of a battle. I loved watching that one. Make it something like that. This one I want to highlight. I want to go back up one again. No waivers. Come on. You know, back in the day, you ran 36 races. You know, if you missed some races, you could still win a championship, but the chances were slim to none. Let's go back to that. You know, essentially, you know, keep the playoff format, but tell the guys if you miss a race because you're sick or injured, or you miss multiple races, you shouldn't be granted that waiver to go to the playoffs. You know, maybe bring back, switching gears now, maybe bring back the 2-car tandem at Daytona and Talladega. That's a possibility. I want to call this next one the Furniture Row rule. You know, Joe Gibbs couldn't add a 5th car for Eric Jones. Maybe a Christopher Bell rule. Because, you know, you're not going to see Christopher Bell run a cup race this year. Sorry to say it. If he does, good for him. But I just don't see it happening. I say allow a 5th car again for a development driver in 7 to 10 races. You know, if you get rid of the charter system, allow it. So that way, you know, you have like a past Xfinity champion in the field. Maybe you have a star, a young, you know, like a young stud, essentially. A guy who's just phenomenal racing talent, trying to make his way to full-time cup racing. Hey, give it to him. You know, here's an idea. I actually floated with the Jello Cup Series on this idea. I fought against it. Why not heat races for all the go or go homers? Not at Daytona. I think Daytona's got its own traditions. Leave those alone. You know, like at the short tracks, the road courses, restrictor plates, whatever. Heat races qualify in on time. If you got the top 35, you know, say you do 3 heat races, split the go or go home field in half if there's enough. You know, like if there's over 40, and I'll say there's like 43 attempting to qualify. You know, winners of both heat races lock in, then the top 3 after that in the LCQ. Something like that. For fans watching on TV or streaming, maybe in the Xfinity and Trucks drivers only booth and more radio style broadcasts like on NBC. I thought those were good. You know, you guys may think differently. Another thing I've said for years, more side by side, more NASCAR nonstop. Here's the thing, I've gone more to Indy recently. I've referenced Indy and IndyCar a lot today. What makes them so good is you almost never miss a lap. You know, NASCAR, you miss probably 25% of the race, and sometimes it's the good part of the race because there's little or no side-by-side action. I was going to say add more races on the local channels. I don't see that happening. They're making people have to get big packages, you know, big TV packages. Get over it. Pay the extra whatever. I'm sorry, you know. It's rude, I know. But yeah, but more side by side, more NASCAR nonstop. That's what I think would work. Anyway, so I want to thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe. Maybe I'll do some more of these in the future. Hopefully not 35 minutes worth of it. Comment any ideas you think would make NASCAR better, maybe more entertaining. I'd want to hear from you. And on a side note, once again, I want to stress, please, positive comments only. You know, once again, these are just opinions, not facts. I'm so sick of it, and you know, seeing it in politics, seeing it on NASCAR's social media. it's annoying. Don't attack me for my views on this. You know, I'm not gonna attack you. You know, everyone has their opinion. Either respect it or just keep your mouth shut. That's just the lesson in life. But thanks again for watching. Hopefully, I will hear from you guys again soon. Let me know what you think. All right, goodbye.